Okay.
Alrighty. I don't know who wants to take it, Michael. You want to take it or you want me to take it?
Go ahead. Go ahead and start.
Okay.
I'll let you take that.
Okay. Hey, everybody. So we are here, not live because I cannot figure out technology. So bear with me. We'll figure it out someday. With Alison Carlino. She's going to be one of our pre-con presenters for Elevate 23. We are so excited to have her because she's going to be presenting, and I want to say the title right. I think it is, I should have pulled it up ahead of time, Photographing the Night Skies. Yes, I have done it. There's a lot of titles to remember.
Yeah.
So I would love to get to know you a little bit, Allison. I know you and I have talked a bit, but I want to share all of that with everybody else. We also have our very awesome president on, Michael Ryno, who's letting me take the lead. So everybody just bear with me while I fumble through this. He's better at this than I am. But where are you from? Tell us all of the things about you.
Well, hey y'all, I'm Alison Carlino from Texas, originally from Louisiana. I am in Sugar Land, Texas, which is on a good day 30 minutes southwest of Houston. On a bad day, that can be 90 minutes, depending on traffic. This is my 20th year in the industry. I'm so excited. In July, we celebrated 20 years, and that's quite a feat for this day and time. So we're very proud of that. And we have 7 women that support me behind the scenes, plus my husband that also does all my sales tax and payroll. Thank God he's an accountant. I don't have to do any of that. But my ladies all support me with on-site assisting, as well as ordering all the orders in the background, sales management, in-person sales, all those kind of things. So thankful for that team. I am the only photographer, and I love it that way. So I have done weddings and portraits for 20 years. I've done high school teams and schools for about 8 of those years. And the last 5, I have needed I guess a personal refresh break with going out into the mountains and hiking and falling in love with the outside. Of course, nature, and then of course, Milky Way and star trails and light painting came out of that. So I'm 5 years strong into this love of outside and nature. But I can tell you that my lighting skills and all the exposure things and composition rules of photography that you would have learned all apply here as well, even though it's dark.
Mhm.
So that's my little story. I have 2 kids in college. I'm officially broke. John and I have been married for 27 years, and I have a brother that lives in Colorado Springs. So I'll be visiting him before I fly out. So I'm excited to head up that way.
That was an exciting little thing that happened. I didn't realize your brother was here. And then we decided to host in the Springs and kind of flip flop
I
back.
know.
Because normally we do host in Denver. And then during the planning, we had just decided that we have about half of our members in Colorado Springs, half of them in Denver. It'd be easy enough to bounce back and forth between the 2 big cities. So I'm so happy that that worked out. I mean, not that you couldn't have seen him from Denver to the Springs, but this makes it a little bit easier for you.
I haven't seen him for almost a year because last week he rang the bell on his pancreatic cancer treatments. So he's been pretty
Yay.
secluded, and it's been really rough on the family. My mom and dad moved up there to help him for the last year. They came home last weekend. So it's been difficult, but I'm looking forward to seeing him, assuming he's in good health in November.
Hey, that makes me happy that you'll get to
Yeah.
see him.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you don't look old enough to have 2 kids in college or have been married for 27 years. So let me just point that
Thank
out.
you. Thank you. It's all the humidity here in Texas that keeps the skin young, but the hair is awful, so.
I have very straight hair, so my hair
Yeah.
loves Texas.
Well, I am excited to get up there and share my knowledge, through social hour, through the mentoring, through the night sky class. I just cannot wait to get people's hands on this technology and show them what they can do. That's so much more than our eye can see. And that's the beauty of it, is when you pop that first image on the back of your camera and you look up, and it's just so much more due to aperture and what it can collect. It's just amazing. The first time I did it in Big Bend National Park, it brought me to tears. It was amazing.
Yeah, Allison, and I've had a chance to, and I encourage others to take a look at your website also in advance in that, because it really is incredible the vast genres of photography that you're involved with in that, and the fact that what you're coming up with on your astrophotography with, again, the Milky Way, star trails, and light painting and so forth, and that the fact that you've just been doing that for, it sounds like, I think you mentioned like 5 years or whatever and so forth. You've really come a long way in a short amount of time, and again, it shows how talented you are with just photography in general. I think you've been doing that for 20 years altogether, and
Thank you.
multiple genres, and every single one of them is incredible, really amazing.
Thank you. It's all God. It's not me, but here I am. So I
You're
love to
doing
teach.
well.
I
Right.
love photography, but I love to inspire and teach others more than anything. I'm a former fourth grade teacher. I really know how to write a lesson plan and relate to folks. So bring on the students.
Oh,
Right.
I love that. It's not on my official list of questions, but I do know that you're a very seasoned PPA instructor. I assume outside of PPA as well. We were so excited when you applied to come down here. It was one of the very first applications I looked at and told Michael, because I feel like the two of you can probably talk for hours. I'm only people. I have no understanding of the stars and the sky, unless we're talking about aliens, and then I know a lot about that.
Okay. You could
But
teach me.
and and that night photography is so fun. I just, for myself, if I could only stay awake that late more often, that I would do so much more of it. But the times that I have been out, I really enjoy it. And again, there's always something, even though I've done it, several times and so forth, there's always something more to learn as far as techniques and so forth. So
Yeah.
again, that really makes me look forward to your workshop, the pre-con class.
I think that even when I'm done with portraits and weddings years from now, this will be the love that I continue doing, is landscape and night sky fine art. Because like you said, no matter where you go in the world, it's going to look different. If it's in a colder, crisper climate, the stars are going to be more vivid. The colors of the trails will be different versus what we get down here in the South. And I haven't even touched on or experienced the Southern Hemisphere and how that changes. So
Right.
this is a love that will continue until I just can't walk anymore. And it does look different everywhere you go.
Great.
sounds like a lot of science. I will be at the portrait pre-con. Not that I don't want to come to yours. I was actually trying to do the math. I was trying to decide if it was humanly possible to go to both. I don't know that it is, so we'll have to make really hard choices. But I also might be dead the next day when I'm supposed to be teaching. So even if
Understand that.
I'm like,
You need to
okay,
be at your best, so I understand that.
I have got to show up for that because apparently they need me there. So.
Well,
So
should I
we
talk about some of the techniques that we'll be looking at while in the field?
yes.
Okay.
Let's
Should
do
I
it.
jump in first with what kind of gear is absolutely required for you to
Yes.
experience this?
I think that
I
would
have
be
a pre-webinar with all of my students. So if you want to do
yeah.
that, a couple weeks out, I'm happy to do a pre-webinar to make sure they have all the gear that they need and they understand what they're getting into. I do that with all my personal workshop students. But I'll start with a minimum of what you have to do this. And I want to say before I start any of this that you don't even have to have the gear. If you want to join us and come listen and watch and just see what this is like, to see if you want to jump into it and just join some crazy people at night, more power to you. Come on out. So here's the gear you need if you want to shoot it, though. Tripod, absolutely required. And I don't know if we're going to have winds that night, so you don't want to jump out there with some cheap job off of the Amazon. You need to have something sturdy that can resist winds. You need a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. I will be running one of each rig. I have my foot in both worlds for that reason. A wide angle lens, and I'm talking something like 16 to 35 millimeters, something to 15 to 40, something in that. I would recommend you not bring a fisheye, something that's like 10 or 11 millimeters. And I've even rented the 14 millimeter fix prime, and I tried that, and it gets you so much information that it's almost confusing to me personally. And especially if you're in a group atmosphere, you're going to have to change your distance where your tripod is because you've got a wider lens, and that's going to look different. So if you could stay in the millimeter range of 15 or 16 to 35, that would be optimal. You can do it with a 24 to 70, but you'll be getting less information at 24 millimeters and more distortion because you're going to have to open up, to 24, which could cause some stretching and problems at the end of your range. So something in 16 to 35, 15 to 35. More importantly, the aperture. If you come out with a 4.5 or a 5.6 lens, you're not going to be able to collect the amount of light that we're going to be able to, therefore getting less stars and less bright stars. So you need something that's a 2.8, 3.5, 1.4. Give me something that's expensive. We all know that's how they price glass. I prefer 2.8 or less if possible. Rent it. Go to lensrentals.com now before it's too late and they have nothing available, because you have to put that in ahead of time, and go rent something if you don't have the tripod, the body, or the lens to do this. Okay. So that would be the three things that you absolutely have to do Milky Way. Now, if you're doing star trails, you're going to need either a built-in intervalometer or a plug-in one for the side, because this is what times your camera every 20 seconds to click on and off all night long until your battery dies. So in our new mirrorless bodies, and even on my 5D Mark IV, that's built into the camera, and I can show you how to use that menu and set that up. If it's an older camera model, you're going to want to check it to make sure an intervalometer, intervalometer, is built into your body. Get your camera manual out, get online, search it up, and find out if you have one built in. Now, if you're coming out just to do Milky Way, and you don't want to do star trails, you don't need one of these intervalometers. You just don't need one. You'll use a 2-second time delay, and in order to not shake your camera, you'll hit fire, and X amount of seconds later, you'll have a real-time image that pops up on your screen that's ready to go. And we're going to show you how to include light painting in that, so you can walk away with an image that night that you could put on social to show off. Now, if you're doing star trails, you're going to have possibly 2 rigs running, or maybe you'll shoot a few Milky Way, and then you'll kick your star trail camera off and you'll let that run for an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours. I can tell you the minimum mine will run is 4 hours. So I will be out there overnight. And the good thing is the sun sets much earlier in November. So like right now and last month, our times go from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. We are literally out all night because it's the longest and the most visible time for the Milky Way to be out, and the best time to capture star trails, because you have so many hours to do it before the sun rises. Now in November, there'll be a shorter window, but you can still do both. So it just would be a shorter window. So some will come with 1 rig, some will come with 2, and I'm happy to instruct both people on both fronts on that. I can encourage people to reach out to me with gear questions beforehand. And I'm sure you're going to post my way to contact me up there, email address, Facebook Messenger, that kind of thing. And if we get into a point where someone needs a personal phone call, I'm happy to pick up the phone and call them. But let's try Messenger and email first, because it may just be quick questions they have. I'd like you to have a red headlamp. That way, when we turn off our cell phone lights and we turn down the power of our camera body so that we don't ruin our vision and ruin other people's vision around us, that way you have that to help with everybody's vision. We're going to use flashlights to walk to the scene, but then we will turn off all those bright lights and turn on the red from that point on. A chair, a folding chair, maybe a blanket or jacket, depending on what the temperatures are going to be. If you don't want to stand all night, I've had people bring chairs and picnic blankets and food, all kind of water and things like that to make sure you can make it. I bring toilet paper for the obvious reasons, and garbage bags to bring it in and out, because everywhere I go, there seems to be no toilet, because I go to the most remote dark sky zones that are not public oriented. So there should be no, public restrooms 2 miles down the road where I'm going. So I even bring aluminum foil to cover any kind of nearby lights that might be on buildings that I can't turn off. That at least the ones that I can legally reach. That's for a different time and story. But so I have a whole night skies trick bag. I bring glow tape, like reflector tape, for my tripod so I can find it later on in the dark. There's so many little tricks that I've learned in 5 years that I cannot wait to share with you guys. But the very minimum of what you need is your tripod, your wide angle lens that can do a low aperture, and a mirrorless or a DSLR camera.
Mhm. I would say you need to bring a coat. It will be cold.
Southern girl's
A
gonna
coat,
freeze. Yeah, I know.
a
You're
coat
going
and
to be
gloves. Yeah.
cold.
And my
A
hat,
coat.
I'll have a hat on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Even
Right.
if the high that day is 70 in November, it'll be cold overnight.
Very
Like
nice. Okay.
it's 30s, maybe
All right.
40s.
Very good.
Right.
I'll add that
Right.
to my list.
Sometimes it snows. It's so hard to tell. Everybody asks us, like, what do you expect weather-wise while we're here? We had Corey McDonald, I don't know if you know Corey,
Mhm.
in last year, and he was so excited about the snow. So he asked if it would snow, and I was like, no, it's not going to snow. It doesn't snow in November, and if it does, it doesn't accumulate. And then that night, after his, I can't remember if it was before or after his presentation. I think it was after. It was like a blizzard. Like he was outside making tiny little snowmen in a blizzard that I said would absolutely not happen because
Yeah.
traditionally in November it does not snow enough to make a difference. But
Yeah.
and it was really warm the day before. We had a great sunset the first or sunrise the first day for the group that went out.
Right. That's right.
So
Wonderful.
but bring a
And
coat.
I was going to say, and then that snow, it accumulated like a 2 or 3 inches or so, something like that
A
night.
lot.
And then the next day was beautiful, and by 2 days later, you didn't even know it had snowed. So it
I mean, they
changes
were
pretty quick out
outside.
there.
There were people outside. I don't know if they were light painting because we had a light painting portrait set up last year, but they took the lights outside and they were playing in the snow with the street lamps and
Nice.
yeah. So just bring
Yeah.
a coat, everybody.
Yeah, and I'll do if you already are doing light painting, you can bring your light painting tools if you use Coast flashlights. I'm going to bring mine, and I'll have a selection of things that you can play with. That'll be a very small piece of the class on how to do that correctly versus all the other stuff that we're doing. So I think a pre-webinar, a couple weeks out,
Oh,
maybe even a month out, would be a great idea to schedule as soon as we hop off this Zoom call, and that way people can get their questions answered.
absolutely.
Great, great. Thank you, Allison, also for pointing out all that gear. It kind of reminded me, triggered my thoughts on a couple of things in that. But one of the things I was going to say too is that I do have backup of pretty much everything that you described there. I have 2 decent tripods, so if there is, if there's a person or two or whatever in that doesn't have that specific gear, I can, feel free to, they can borrow some of mine, and then I also have a mirrorless and a DSLR, both Nikon cameras and so forth, and that I can use one, somebody else can use the other one, 2 different lenses that go down to that aperture that you're talking about, and that. So I can help also in that if there's a person or two or whatever in that are interested in going but don't have all of that specific gear. We can try and in advance, like we can reach out to a couple other people in that and see if we
Yeah.
can borrow from others in the group also.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
you mentioned your Nikon, I'm Canon.
Mhm.
I'm used to working with all kind of brands out in the dark.
Yeah.
During my Big Ben workshop we had in June, someone came out with an Olympus. And do you guys know that that's the only camera model right now that can do live star trail compositing as it's being taken?
Yeah,
I watched it
I've
happen.
yeah, I've seen somebody demonstrate that too also, and
Well,
it's pretty
yeah.
amazing what they have
Mind
in a
blown.
Micro Four Thirds environment that they can do all that stuff. Is pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
That was the
I
first time
just
I had
learned
seen
that.
it. So
Mhm.
I had no idea. Just we had Bob Coates in town this past week.
That's right.
I think he was talking about it at the meeting. Everything he said was completely over my head. I don't even know what half of the gear that you just said.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't
that's okay.
have
I got
any.
pictures on I have this pre-PowerPoint webinar that has pictures and then we talk about it. So
Great.
I think
I
we should
have
definitely
like
do that pre-class.
I have a floppy tripod that would definitely fall down, and I can't find a plate, so that's a problem. And I have portrait lenses, so I
Yeah.
don't think my 200 millimeter is going to work out
Yeah.
there. That was one of my questions, is whether you were Nikon or Canon, because obviously Nikon is the correct choice. But
And
It's
the
all
other
gear,
I know
and
I like to
and
make a big
Allison,
deal about
sorry
which
about it.
brand.
You had pointed out the like 15 to 35 range and so forth in that, and for those that
Mhm.
just have, let's say, like a 24 to 70 f2.8 lens, that will also work in that. I've gone with that. It's nice to have those kind of a little bit wider angle, like you said, 20,
Mhm.
15 or whatever and so forth. But for those that have 24 to 70 f2.8, that will work fine also.
Yes, it will work. You may just find that you're at a different distance than us
Yep.
in order to capture the light painting of whatever we're
Right.
doing.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, specific techniques, just a brief overview of what I'm going to download into everybody would be the exposure settings that are needed, how long in between each star trail gap that I record and why, how to focus in the darkness. That is the hardest thing for a newbie to do. I actually require my students to go into the bathroom, turn off the lights, and fumble with their camera in the dark before they come out with me, because everything is harder in the dark. I don't care how many years you've been doing this, it's harder in the dark. So focusing in the dark is probably the biggest challenge, which when we shoot that night, that Friday night, I think in the course description, I'm looking at what I sent you here. I put arrival as 5 p.m. I would like to be out there as early as possible because I'd like to give as much daylight setup help to everybody that needs it to make sure they're focused. So 5 p.m. is probably cutting it a little close. So maybe we can fumble with that time as we get closer
yeah.
to
Definitely.
convention, because I like to arrive in the daylight, get boots on the ground, walk it around, understand my settings, and angles and all that. So, but yeah, in your same ideas about composition apply: foreground, midground, background, good rules of photography, and using light painting to draw the eye to that. So we have a lot of things to show you. It's a 3 to 4 day class in Big Bend National Park when I do it, for a reason, because we go to different places. And so I'm going to crash everything I can to y'all in one evening. And hopefully it'll leave you hungry to keep practicing.
Absolutely. And I think I have your time down as just TBD for
Good.
everybody, because I don't know.
Good.
I don't want to make that choice and that call.
Yeah.
Are we going to do any classroom at the hotel beforehand, or are you going to do everything out in the field?
That depends on how much time y'all give me. If we're allowed at least 2
Right.
hours ahead and we're already on site 2 hours ahead, then I can do everything right there. I don't need a lecture time. That is my
Okay.
lecture.
Okay.
If the weather is bad, we are still doing this class. We will meet
Oh,
at
yeah.
the convention center. You will go through all the techniques. I will teach you how to focus in the dark. We might even be able to practice light painting with a chair, for all that matters. So we're going to still do this class. You just won't get to go outside if it's pouring. So
Yeah, I mean, it won't be raining. The worst that might happen is it might snow, but again,
that's
it's
one I
all
haven't
about
shot night skies in yet. So bring it
It's
on.
it's unlikely in that the issue might be that if
very
there's
unlikely.
clouds or whatever in that as far as stars, but
Right.
like you said,
Right.
if
Yeah.
there's clouds, there still are those opportunities
That's
around
right.
that would give us, the light painting techniques and still the explanation and so forth and that
Yeah.
of what we would be doing if we were doing the stars. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. I am not choosing your time frame. We will decide that when we are closer.
Okay. And I know we're going to caravan as much as possible. I mean,
Right.
myself, I'm going to need to ride it with someone because I'm flying in.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we'll caravan as much as possible. And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll
let's
get
get
you the
that.
class list early. That way you can
Okay.
kind of, usually when I speak elsewhere or even here, actually, I create a little Facebook group just to chat. I know that there's other things we could probably create a specific chat. I know Facebook has changed so many things, but
I have a private class page for all of my
oh,
classes. So, but I would need emails of people to invite them in,
oh,
of
I can get you
course.
that.
We'd need to be friends on Facebook, the whole bit. So that's something we can create if we do this pre-webinar, about a month before. That's something that I can ask for. And if people send to me, then they can be invited to that private group.
Perfect.
Great.
Well, and I think you have a meet and greet too. So we sold VIP tickets this year, and one of the great things about having that VIP ticket is that there's going to be a little meet and greet at the conference center beforehand. So you're going to
Nice.
meet most of your students there
Okay.
either way. I don't know what time that'll be. It is just going to be right before you guys leave, but I'm kind of really sad that I can't go to both things. Ugh.
Well, I guess we'll have to decide if you already have a set time for the meet and greet, then we would need to decide if that needs to be
I
factored
don't
into us
know.
driving and lecturing
Yeah.
out there. But if you
Well,
haven't
yeah,
set your meet and greet yet, then yeah.
no. All of your stuff, unfortunately, is TBD, which is not because we don't care. It's because I'm trying to like wait till the last
Thank you.
minute.
And,
Yeah.
and very soon we will close that gap and put in
Okay.
some more details on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
depending
good.
on location. I'm excited though.
Good.
I
Well, ask me your
probably need-
questions.
These might be all of our questions. I was gonna make a big deal about you being Canon, but I just like to tell people I do this in all of my classes. I'm like, are you Nikon or are you Canon? And then obviously if you've chosen Canon, you've chosen incorrectly. But
Um,
I used to sell cameras. It used to be this thing that we had at this camera shop that I worked at because I used to sell cameras and we had to like choose a team. And I just
yeah.
chose Team Nikon. This was like 20 some years ago. I don't even remember why. And I've
I
just,
prefer the glass, and
it's
I just
like
prefer the
really,
optics. That's
Mhm.
my preference there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the last one we have, and I'm happy to share one too, and I know Michael has a bunch. What is one, and it could be unique, weird, odd, crazy thing about you? We like to make fun of ourselves a little bit here in Colorado, or at least share. What is one thing that we need to know about you?
I have played the flute since fourth grade.
Oh, I
It
love that.
paid for me to go to college. I was high school drum major, high school first chair flute and all that kind of stuff in all the bands, state and concert bands. Then college, I marched at UL Lafayette, Raging Cajuns, and I was drum major there as well. I was in the wind ensemble that traveled to France and we played on tour. So music and the arts have always been alive in me. I miss playing a lot. I don't play much anymore. My chops are definitely gone. But
Love
yeah,
that.
I'm a flautist.
I love it. My kids are too. I'm not, but I do work with a ton of musicians,
Great.
and I
That's
love that.
that's fantastic.
That's a good
Yeah.
fact. Michael, do you want to? I have a lot, so I can make this super weird. We'll decide.
Let's see what I'll try and come up with something that what's part of my background. I'll just go into like what got me into photography as far as other activities that I do. And that really I started off just purchased a camera about 7 years ago, and my my background on that is I do a lot of outdoor activities. Fly fishing is one of the things in
Mhm.
particular. And so I got, like I say, 7 years ago, I had been just, point and shoot cameras and didn't really know anything about photography. So purchased a Nikon camera. Not there was no reason for that. It's just that was the one that they had at Costco, the entry level camera. And as soon as I bought it, I knew I needed to learn a lot more about it. So I joined another club and then and came into this. But really, it's as far as what that means is that my background in fly fishing and outdoors and so forth and that. And out here in Colorado, it's nice that
Yeah.
those trout live in pretty places. So that was
Yeah.
really what got me into photography. So I'll go with that. I don't know that it's necessarily crazy, but kind
Not
of my
crazy.
background is outdoors, hiking, camping, fly
I'm
fishing.
envious. I really am. If I could handle the winters, I would be up there. But yeah, so we have
Yeah.
to go now in where we are. You might imagine major city. We have
Hmm.
to go 4 hours west just to get dark enough to even shoot.
Oh,
And if I
Okay.
really want to be good, it's 10 hours to Big
Mm.
Bend.
that
So
Wow.
is
Okay.
far.
we don't see many stars. It's really a shame, but it's worth the drive when we go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. We're pretty spoiled out here.
Yeah,
It's fun.
for
We are
sure.
a little slow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, mine's crazy. Well, it's not exactly crazy, and it ties into photography. I am terrified of butterflies and ladybugs.
Oh.
So just like terrified. Shannon Squires is my best friend and my studio mate, and she does these live butterfly sessions every
Oh
year.
no.
And it's all very top secret, and I've been sworn to secrecy, and I go and I film them for her because I dabble in video. I'm not a filmmaker, but I dabble in video, and I go and I film these for her every year. And I swear they're coming for me. Outtakes the video that we have from this. There's a whole bunch of videos where you can see me drop my camera and it's just the ground bouncing because I'm running away, and there's usually some kind of squealing or screaming. And she now has an assistant, and he has started videoing me looking absolutely ridiculous. They'll like put them on my cameras. Once my husband was there, he put one on my shoulder while I wasn't looking, and like you can't feel
Oh.
it. And I turned, and like the horror, terrible.
I'm so
And it's
sorry for
ladybugs
you.
too. It's butterfly, and I love butterflies from a distance, but
That's good.
up close and personal, it's like,
Well, I won't pack any with me. How's that?
well, it's November, so they won't be here anyway. But like I can see two sitting outside my window. We have butterfly bushes naturally outside that we put there on purpose. I don't go out there during the
Oh my
summer if
gosh.
there's a whole bunch of them, but
Well, I am really looking forward to this. I appreciate you guys asking me, bringing me up from Texas, and
So excited.
looking forward to it. So let's get that pre-webinar scheduled and get some questions answered. Maybe about a month out, I think would be safe to still rent something. I
Yep.
can even do 6 weeks if you want, which wouldn't be too much further from here. So
Yeah, you might get some stragglers in towards, well, no, you probably get a good deal of people in. Everybody tends to wait till the last minute for signing up and whatnot, but there's not a ton of room in either of the pre-con classes since they're shooting events. So
are we
people
limiting
can
ours
sign.
to a certain number of students?
We can. I think for the portrait one, we definitely are because it's in the studio, so it's not a huge space.
I would
You
kindly
have,
ask
like,
for 20 as a max
oh,
because
yeah,
as a solo instructor that night,
that's
they
a
did
lot.
that to me at a Summerfest here in Texas, and it was 20 people showed up, and it was a lot for me to get around to in one night with
think
no
we have it
pre-cons.
either set at
So
15 or 20.
okay, that would be a
Right.
nice, comfortable max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Last year,
Having
I
done
think,
this myself, not with night skies, but just people in general, 20 is a lot for
It
one
is.
person. Yeah.
and last year we did that, and we had
Yeah.
very close to 24. I'm thinking about our landscape shootout deal that we did in the morning, and we had, I think it was 16 or 17, something like that.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so we had a person who was the designated, I'll say, instructor, and then we had myself and a couple of others in that were pretty familiar with the landscape photography and that assisted.
Okay.
So
Okay.
those of us that, now I don't have quite all of the background that you do on the night sky, but I can be there to try and help and assist or whatever in that
Absolutely. Yes.
where
Yes.
appropriate. So
And it usually helps that we have a good amount of Canons and Nikons because people can split off and look for the same menu settings. So that does
Right.
help.
Great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good
Yeah,
deal.
we'll get you that list early. You just might have to fill some people in as they come in towards the end.
Okay.
Unless it sells out, because I don't know how close you are actually to that number right now. I'd have to go look, but
Okay.
you're
Well, we
at
can
least
arrange
over
all that
5%.
over email. I'll send you some
Yeah.
dates for the webinar. Would a weeknight particularly work or a Sunday night? What do you think would be best for your audience for a webinar?
Probably a weeknight. So we do our meetings on the second Thursday of the month, so not that day. And then our other local group does the third Thursday of the month, so not that day. But beyond that, like, I think a lot of
Not
people are
Thursdays.
pretty
Okay.
responsive during the week.
Okay. Yeah, it's 30 to 45 minutes max. And if you don't have any questions, you can be off in 30 minutes. So
Can I come to that, even though I can't come to your class?
yeah, of course. You'll be able to learn at least what you need to get
Yeah,
out
I
there and
know.
start doing it
Great
and
idea.
hear other people's questions too. So
Yeah,
No, it's a great idea. I like that.
I love that. Yeah.
yeah, this is one of those classes where you could show up and just watch. Absolutely, hands down.
Yeah, but
And I wouldn't count that in the 20. So if somebody's coming just saying they wanted to watch, that's up to you guys. I can go over 20 for that, but
Okay.
if they're shooting, 20 would be a max.
oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's not beyond that because I've done that before and it's a disaster with more than 30 or more than 20 and one instructor.
And I should mention also that anybody that takes Star Trails that night as well and captures that, that since I don't have a day after processing
Right.
class,
Yep.
what I'll do is just for the people that did Star Trails and that care to learn about them, I'll do a webinar with my images for half an hour one night on a non-Thursday. And it may end up being the end of December because I'm going to come home and Christmas season is
Oh, yeah.
absolutely going to tear me apart 6 days a week. But it will happen before the end of the year. I'll do a processing webinar for those folks.
That is so wonderful of you.
Great.
Yeah, you can't just have all these images and not know what to do with them. It's very easy. Star Trail processing is done in a program called Star Stacks. I don't do very much to them in Lightroom at all before they come out, and it's not that hard. But you need some help walking through it.
Right.
Well, thank you for that.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys. I'll email you
Yeah,
some
thank
dates
you.
for the webinar, and you know where to find me if you need me, okay?
Perfect.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank
You're
you for
welcome,
doing this.
guys.
Thank you
All
for
right.
Jessica for sending this up.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Goodbye.